40 years. He's a spiritual activist and a New York Times best-selling author of The Journey Within. You see the book on your screen. Please welcome Radhanath Swami. Radhanath, thank you so much for joining us down here.
Thank you.
We are happy to have you. And before we get into all the things that really truly make you fascinating, the fact that you have held so many talks at big major companies around the world about how to unify those corporations, what about just we as people? We had a major mass shooting out in Las Vegas happening in the early morning hours. What do we do as people to come together?
It's important that we value higher principles in our life. So much problem comes when we emphasize the quality of what we acquire over the quality of our life. Quality of life is based on earning with integrity and spending with compassion, where we understand that we're not proprietors of what we have, but we're entrusted, we're caretakers with the sacred property of God. Our wealth, our influence, our abilities, everything within creation is entrusted to us.
And how do we, those of us that are in New York, far away from this or not close to it, not directly experiencing the tragedy, what do we do today to try to heal the world or make things better? What's a one foot in front of the other thing that each of us can do on a day like today?
Emerson said that the reason why the world is in such chaotic situations so often is human beings are disconnected from their own self. You know, what is the true values of who we are? We have our body, we have our mind, but we also have our spirit. And when we connect with our own spirit, we actually connect with the love that's within us. And that love is expressed through compassion. And then we actually understand what we all have in common. We're all children of the same source. When we emphasize so much the differences due to ahankara in Sanskrit or ego, then we feel that we have rights over other human beings. We have rights to kill. We have rights to exploit. That's due to a poverty of spirit. One could be a billionaire or a millionaire or a simple farmer or a monk who doesn't have a bank account. But the real beauty of life is to have a well-wishing heart toward others, to overcome this greed and arrogance. And I've seen it. You know, I live in Mumbai, and I've seen among people who are billionaires and millionaires who are truly compassionate instruments of the higher principle of God's love in whatever they do, beyond sectarian concepts.
Do you see a path to people reconnecting with that selflessness and that compassion and moving away from ego and tangible things?
In the world today, there's a lot of polarization. As people turn more to arrogance and greed and power, thoughtful people question, where is the world going? How could I be the change that I want to be in the world? How could we be the change that we want to see in the world? And with the polarization, as people ask these important questions of what is really the quality and the value of life, then they begin to transform into being instruments of grace, instruments of goodness, whether we're in business, whether we're in politics, whatever it may be. And that takes a certain amount of inner excavation.
Yes.
And that's the purpose of all spiritual paths. It's the purpose of all religious paths. Religion and spiritual has nothing to do with sectarian arrogance that I'm better than you. It's about connecting to the compassionate spirit that's within us and holding that as the greatest wealth that we have.
Why do you think that we continue to see these sort of events happening and play out really around the world? I understand you're saying that people need to connect to themselves, but this disarray that we're seeing, like we saw in Vegas today, I mean, seems to play out every other month at this point in some country around the world.
Well, of course, from the governmental perspective, justice and protection is very important. From a business perspective, from a perspective of a parent, to try to be leaders that inculcate true human values. The value that happiness is not coming from how much we have. Happiness is from the spirit of our love and our compassion in all of our interactions in this world. Because love is a much powerful motivating force than greed.
I'm a Jew. I was in temple, all day Saturday, right? And I thought to myself at the end of that Saturday, it's amazing how rare in my life there are these moments where I sit back and I just think about what have I contributed, what have I taken away, what have I given, what pain have I caused in a year. That's what we do, right? Is it possible that the world has accelerated to such a pace and people are so frenetic and there's so much technology and there's so much hustle and bustle that we are disconnected from emotion? And that causes this kind of negligence around the kind of spirituality and the kind of love and compassion that you're speaking about today.
We're constantly bombarded by these weapons of mass distraction.
Yeah.
So many distractions. They've always been there throughout the ages. With the rise and development of technology, these distractions are so immense. Special effects, computers, cellular phones, human relationships is what actually give meaning to life. And we have to balance. Technology is a wonderful thing if it's balanced with the value of actual human relationships, human compassion.
I want to just bring it back to finance for a minute. You haven't had a bank account since 1969. I mean, is the irony kind of lost in you that right now you're in, the financial hub of the world, sitting in the New York Stock Exchange, and that not just business leaders, but international financiers come to you for advice?
I guess they see me as harmless and neutral also. But real wealth for everyone, whether we're penniless monks or whether we're billionaires, real wealth is in our inner peace, our inner happiness, and how we can extend peace and happiness through what we have and through who we are and what our influence is for the well-being of others. Krishna tells in the Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram Jagatapasam Sarva Lokamaheshwaram, that real peace, real joy, real love comes when we understand, as we said before, we're not the proprietors, we're caretakers of all the sacred gifts we have. We have intelligence, we have wealth, we have ability, we have power, we have influence. Gandhi, he once said that there goes my people. And I must follow them because I'm my leader. I'm their leader. Real leadership is by our example to actually establish these principles of respect and compassion.
We have Neil deGrasse Tyson on from time to time, and he always says this stuff that I find so inspiring about us being stardust, right, and things like that. In your culture, in your beliefs, is there one energy that basically ties everything together? You've used the term, we're all caretakers. We all should be egoless. We're all just custodians of a sort. Is it one energy that just ties everything together?
In our tradition, that energy is grace.
Grace.
And that grace is coming from the Supreme Being, or God, or who has many names. Just as the sun rises And in India, the sun is called Surya. In Mexico, Sol. In America, sun. Same sun. So that same supreme source, that cause of all causes, who in Bhagavad Gita is called Krishna. Jesus says in the Bible, what profited the person if they gain the whole world but they lose
their soul?
Their soul.
Yeah, I love that. I love that line.
And the Gita tells that we are, whatever we may have, the only true value and purpose of it is how we're connected to that source, that one energy that you're saying, the energy of God's grace, and to be an instrument of that grace in our life.
Well, thank you so much for being here on a tragic day and offering some thoughts and some guidance. It was very meaningful to have you here today, and thank you for joining us.
Truly appreciate
These
it.
tragedies, we can pray, we can try as communities to create relief for those who are suffering, and most of all, we could all try to be an example in whatever we do. And actually, people who have much have the greatest power to change the world through their example.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us.
Yes, Radhanath Swami, monk, spiritual activist, and author of The Journey Within. You see the book on your screen there. We'll be right back.